Good.
Welcome to Saturday Simulcast, joined by our football expert Tom Dienhart, as we are going to be talking transfer portal. Now, I know we got a Purdue Oregon basketball later today, depending on when you watch and or listen to this, but a lot going on in the world of Purdue sports and a lot going on in the Purdue football program with the transfer portal, as Tom Dienhart has spent a lot of time getting that all organized and having it make sense. I really enjoyed the analysis that he's put together of their positions as he's been rolling those out on GoldandBlack.com. We want to thank the Union Club Hotel, the Boiler Up Bar, the 811 Bistro. We appreciate them. There's going to be some traffic in there the next few weekends as Purdue men's basketball has those Friday night games upcoming with Michigan on the 24th and Indiana on the 31st and USC on the 7th. So all 3 straight Friday night games will be busy, bustling weekends at the Union Club Hotel, but we appreciate all they do. All right, Tom. Yes, Purdue's portal count is at 29. You've said pretty emphatically that number, when the next portal window opens in April 16th to the 25th, that number will change in some format. But let's talk about what's happened so far. And I thought on Friday your post about the offensive line, I wanted to start kind of there in the fact that you're basically rebuilding an entire football team. I mean, that's stating the obvious here in what Barry Odom is trying to get done. And nothing is more important than the offensive line. Talk about that group. There's 4 in there that you mentioned, but this is going to be an extremely important Purdue's going to have a much better season than it did last year. It's going to have to be productive in that area.
Yeah, football at every level is won at the line of scrimmage, from the West Lafayette 56ers to the NFL. If you can't block, you can't get pressure and stop the run, you're probably not going to have a good football team no matter how good your skill guys are. So you're right, Alan. The staff has a lot on their plate, and there's no doubt the offensive line and the D-line have to be 2 priorities. And you talked about the O-line. They brought in 4 portal linemen so far, 3 from UNLV, and the 4th one's maybe the most intriguing portal addition so far, the kid from Canada.
Yeah.
Giordani Vaccaro. So, they're big guys, and I've been told that unequivocally Barry Odom wants to run the football by any means necessary. That's going to be their base. So, again, starting up front, these guys are big, Alan. All 3 UNLV guys are 6'3" to 6'5", over 300 pounds, and the guy from Canada is about 290. So, yeah, we'll see. I think one of the guys they got, Jalen St. John, started at left tackle for UNLV. I think he has a chance. It probably needs to be the cornerstone of next year's offensive line. I expect him to be the number 1 left tackle and also to be a leader, too. I think he's a cut above and a guy that can really lead the way, and just from a leadership standpoint, also from a style of play standpoint as well.
10 is that number, at least I always look at, that you want to have in terms of numbers. And that means, we talked about Joey Tanona coming back, of course, the Notre Dame transfer that could come and make a difference. But are they even close to that number yet? Do they feel that more additions, I suppose, at any point can happen? Do they still need to bolster that group to get to a number so they've got at least enough working depth?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be shocked if in the spring portal window, they've got a number of other positions they would like to maybe fill out the roster. But I would suspect at least 1, maybe 2 more offensive linemen could be brought in, and when that spring window opens in April. And yeah, and again, let's not forget, like you mentioned, Alan, there are some good players still on the roster on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And, you talked about, I posted the analysis of the portal additions up front on Friday. Then I kind of had some fun, sort of projected what I thought could be maybe the number 1 offensive line, at least coming out of the gate. And I had Jalen St. John at left tackle. I had Joey Tanone at left guard, Ethan Trent at center, right guard Jaden Ball, and the right tackle Bakeem Coley. I mean, from the looks of things, I think I could live with that front. It looks pretty salty to me. I always heard a lot of good things about Jaden Ball. Was just a true freshman last year. We talked about Tanona. He was coming on after being out of football for a couple of years. But Keen Coley is a guy who's a great athlete, 6'7", a guy who played some defense in practice too. And they really like Coley as well. And I talked about St. John. So who knows? Just something for everybody to sort of keep on their radar, at least from what I think could be a starting point for this offensive line next year.
You get the sense, again, I think we talked about this a little bit before, Joe Tiller making the Matt Light transition, and looking at, do you have any sense that Odom and staff is, you need to have pieces of the puzzle line in the line, from defensive line to offensive line. Any sense that will be a factor? And again, it's a difficult question because we don't know the entire group yet, but you want to put your best guys on the field wherever you could put them, and then that seems to be make common sense. But do you have any sense that that's a trait of Odom and company?
I think probably every coach looks to do that. They're probably still really getting the grip on their roster, at least the guys they've inherited, what they can do, their skill set. They've surely watched film. And I'm sure, if they think guys could be more effective at another position, I'm sure they'll consider that. I can't speak to any guys on that radar at this point who could make some radical position change. Like you referenced the old Matt Light move from tight end to offensive tackle. But again, stay tuned. Like I said, this is a smart staff. I'm sure they're going to evaluate all those type of possibilities, Alan. And it's been a crazy December, starting with the dismissal of Ryan Walters, the hiring of Barry Odom, the assembling of his staff, all the portal defections, Alan, and now all the portal arrivals too. Things have settled down a little bit. You mentioned the 29 editions so far. Maybe that total pushes toward 40 when it's all said and done. And classes started on Monday. And the staff had until Friday to still get guys in school from the portal. And that's not going to happen. So we're going to see this number stay at 29 right now. And like we've referenced and talked about, that number certainly is going to go up in the spring, Alan. But also look for some guys to leave too. Once spring ball is over, players got to where they belong on the roster, if they're going to have a spot on this roster, what the role is going to be. And there's almost certainly going to be some guys who are going to maybe be asked or maybe suggested maybe they look elsewhere. Maybe some guys who just do it on their own when they realize there's not really a spot for them here either.
Yeah, it is going to be an interesting, having the players and having the proverbial game program, whether it's a digital one or I think that's the only kind you can get these days.
Yeah,
but it's going to absolutely be important. It's going to be the coaches are going to have to be able to adjust. But the good thing is with Barry Odom is the ability he's been in this game before and he's done it well at UNLV. And I think that you don't sense you sense that's got to be comforting, I think, for Purdue fans, that this is a guy that at least has been through this. This is a staff that seems to be relatively cohesive and mature that will really help this situation.
Yeah. Head coach for 4 years at an SEC school at a very young age, more than held his own there at Missouri from 2016 to 19. We know what he did recently at UNLV, a place renowned for the difficulty or, to win football games at a high level. He did that. He defied the odds there at a place that's been a long-time loser. And his staff, I like his staff, a lot of experience, Alan. I really like Darren Hinshaw, the quarterback's coach, who has a lot of offensive coordinator experience as well. Josh Henson, the offensive coordinator coming from USC. And I've heard a lot of good things about Vance Weiss, the offensive line coach. A lot of people have kind of compared him to Danny Hope as far as the O-line coach he is. And some young guys.
He certainly looks the part there, yeah.
Yeah, he does.
He has that personality, yeah.
And an up-and-coming defensive coordinator in Michael Shear. So, I think the staff looks good. And the special teams coach, too, James Shebist, comes with a great reputation. So they look like they got a good staff with a lot of pedigree. They have a lot to sort out, so obviously, too, Alan. And, amongst all this portal talk, it's easy to forget about the high school recruiting, right?
Yeah.
There's another signing day coming up.
Yeah.
February 5th, which used to be the high holy day for recruiting That's when everybody signed their letters. Of course, the bulk of that always takes place now in December. Purdue's got 11 true freshmen that they've signed or flipped from UNLV. They are probably going to add a couple guys in February, maybe 2 or 3 guys. I've talked about those in Boiling Over and on the message board and other places. Maybe they add nobody. I think they're going to add at least somebody, Alan. I think that somebody's probably going to be, I'm guessing here, Cameron Gorn, Brandon Gorn's son. He's still out there, Alan. I'm told he's working out. He's in constant contact with the Purdue staff. Long story short, I'd be shocked if he doesn't end up being a Boilermaker. But that's one guy for sure. There's, maybe a kicker, maybe a running back / wide receiver. We'll see if they come up on anybody else. But there's not a lot out there still to recruit from a high school standpoint in the class of 2025. The next big thing for high school kids in Purdue, it's going to be January 25th, the Saturday after that Friday night game, that basketball game with Michigan, Allen. They're going to have a big junior day. That's when they're going to have a lot of the 2026 kids here. So that's going to be Barry Odom and his staff's first chance to really have one of these big recruiting events, get in front of all of these top 2026 kids, which, of course, is the next wave of signees for them. So that's going to be a big day and a big weekend for the football staff for sure.
As you get to know Barry Odom and his staff more, certainly that philosophy towards high school recruiting and what will that be? Do you have any sense of that yet? I mean, obviously he's hosting a junior day. You've got to keep that pipeline coming, but do you see, again, early to tell, and once he gets his roster stabilized a year or two down the road, that will you try to take enough that you can, do half and half portal high school guys? What do you see there? Is it just way too early to know what the heck is going to be the philosophy? Because it is a work in progress.
Yeah, I think right now we're seeing that the scale obviously lean toward the portal guys.
Sure.
Trying to rehab this roster, if you will. I think over time you'll see that balance out, Alan. Ideally, I think you'd always like to still take more high school kids than portal kids. You wouldn't want to rely on portal kids en masse every year. I think you'd like to add maybe 10 to 12 guys every year out of the portal.
Yeah.
Still bring in close to 20 or so high school kids. So I think that's kind of where you'd like to get as a program. And I know the staff over across the way on Northwestern Avenue, I know they want the foundation to be high school kids. I think every coach does, right? So yeah, that's going to be their goal. And Alan, they were all out last week, canvassed the state from the region down to southern Indiana up to Fort Wayne, even into Chicago a little bit, and meeting coaches, trying to get in front of people. And the message to a lot of those guys was, hey, you're always welcome at Purdue to practice. So yeah, they're starting to make headways and headwinds toward in-state recruiting and just getting to meet these new coaches at these schools in Indiana, trying to cultivate relationships.
Yeah, and Barry Odom seems to be, and not casting any aspersions on Ryan Walters, but seems to be a good relationship guy. He's going to relate well. Maybe at that 48 age range that he brings to the table, that's going to be something that it seems to me is going to, he is a football guy, going to talk to football coaches that way. That seems to be a thing that will help him, and maybe the maturity level of his staff, guys that have been around a little bit longer. I think that plays better if you can get traction and if you can get a program, get things off the ground. Is that your sense as well?
Yeah. I think we've got a chance to talk to Coach Odom, you and I.
Yeah.
I talked to him a little bit off to the side during his press conference in early December. Of course, we had the press conference interaction, and he is what he appears to be, a guy. And just like I've tried to kind of use the analogy of your next door neighbor, the guy you lean across the fence and talk to on a Saturday afternoon after you cut your grass, and maybe you borrow his hammer and his saw.
Yeah.
Just as again, he's from Oklahoma. He's a tough guy. He was a fullback in high school, Alan. He came to Missouri as a fullback. They moved him to linebacker. He's a tough guy, and maybe a good Purdue comparable for viewers. He's like Brock Spack from a mentality standpoint, and I think in the way he carries himself too. I think that's maybe the closest analogy I could bring for fans to understand the type of person and coach that Barry Odom is like Spack too. This was a defensive guy, played linebacker. So,
Yeah.
this is a guy I think really fits this school, really fits this program. The blue collar mentality. Uh, you know, nothing's going to be given to you. You have to earn it. And I don't think he's going to look for reasons why he can't win. He's going to look for ways that he can succeed. So, kind of think Brock's back from a personality and mindset standpoint, I think.
Yeah. Quarterback obviously is such a thing. And when we talk about him wanting to run the football,
Yeah.
I think that's a toughness mentality. Purdue, obviously, every team needs to be able to throw the ball as
Sure.
effective as it needs to be. Talk about the quarterback room because you've got 3 portal additions in there. There's probably one that leads the lead. I'm going to guess you'll say will be the leader in the clubhouse for the opportunity to start, but who knows for sure. But talk about that room, and obviously that is position number 1. If you're going to have any level of success, you've got to be good at that position.
Yeah, boy. Again, every level you got to have a good guy in every center, right? And sure, he wants to pass the ball. We all understand that. Every coach wants balance, but I think that balance has to start with a good ground game. And the quarterback spot, you're right, Alan. Boy, you talk about just a total overhaul. Everybody's going to be gone. The one guy, there's only one quarterback on scholarship left here right now. That's Bennett Meredith, and he's expected to graduate and depart. So the entire depth chart of scholarship quarterbacks is going to be different next year. Of course, we had the transfers in Ryan Brown to North Carolina, Marcos Davila to Nebraska. Of course, Hudson Card is out of eligibility, and I talked about Bennett Meredith, so there you go. 3 portal guys are here right now on campus. I think Malachi Singleton or Allen, if you really pushed my back into a corner and asked me to pick who's maybe the favorite, I would say Malachi Singleton, a 6'1 guy, about 230, dual threat guy. Never started the game though, Allen. He has 3 years of eligibility. And I think after Malachi, don't forget about E.J. Colson. He's got 4 years of eligibility. He came from Central Florida. He actually started the game last year. Of course, Darren Hinshaw was on that UCF staff, so Darren knows E.J. Colson quite well. So there's that relationship. Don't count out E.J. Colson. And then there's the more of a long shot guy, Evans Chuba from Washington State. He hasn't played football in 2 years, Alan. He missed his senior year of high school and was redshirted last year at Washington State. So really, it's going to come down to, you think, Singleton and Colson to win this job. And all these guys have pretty much that same dual threat skill set. And again, they have the true freshman. Garrett Odom's coming, Barry Odom's son. Garrett had, I guess, I understand, off-season shoulder surgery on his non-throwing shoulder. Even without that, I doubt if he's going to be a factor this year. My question, Alan, and should you bring in a 4th portal quarterback? Do you want to roll with these guys who really have minimal experience? You have to remember this, Alan. 2 questions. If you want to go get an experienced portal quarterback, it's going to cost you a lot of money, number 1.
Right.
Number 2, Alan, who's left?
Yeah.
All the quarterbacks have seemingly found their places already. There's not likely to be a lot of great quarterbacks on the portal market in the spring. Maybe there will be. But again, even if you get a guy who's not a super marquee portal quarterback, a guy who at least has started, maybe an FCS quarterback, I don't know. I don't know about you, Alan. Somebody mentioned that to me. They said, well, maybe you should just roll with these guys this year, not spend all this money on another big-time portal quarterback. How good are you going to be, Alan, in 2025 anyway? The schedule's tough. This is going to be a transition year. Expectations are low. Why not just roll with Malachi Singleton and E.J. Colson and see what you got?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. And like you said, you can plan for it all you want. That it is a game of musical chairs, and right now the music has stopped in terms of big time quarterbacks, and you don't know the NIL situation, all of that coming to pass now before June 30th. Whether that, how much of an impact is that going to be? What will be the situation with Purdue, and whether they have funds to be able to be able to attract that type of talent? And then, you read a little bit yesterday, and I don't know how much you had a chance to see this about the Department of Education and the fact that this could really play into this. That was a little bit of topic I wanted to get into in terms of Title IX. Doesn't just seem to be definitive, and obviously we have a new administration coming in next week, and whether that's going to change things, who the heck knows? But it just shows again that there's not a lot of stability, or not anything that's set in concrete moving forward, from player acquisition to where the money's going to be, how that $20.5 million is going to be allowed to be dispersed. All those factors, and you still have to play a game. The last couple of days of August, or whenever Purdue opens up against Ball State. So that's just all these factors out there. How did you? I don't know how much I had a chance to look at that, but what struck you about that little missive that came out to the Department of Education?
I guess not surprised. And just throw it on the pile with all the other doubt that you talked about. That's all the other unknowns that are floating around the House settlement, the lawsuits that are probably going to be here, and how our collective is going to be operating in the future of the House settlement. So again, it's just a lot of murkiness, a lot of unknowns. Everybody's still trying to figure out where this is going, Alan. There's certainly, under no circumstances, where this athletics at the college level can function under equity and revenue distribution between males and females. It's utterly absurd. Now, it doesn't matter what I think, right? The courts are going to ultimately decide this.
Yeah, it depends what the law is, yeah.
Well, and again, so many greater minds than myself, they'll figure this out. Maybe the sports break away from the universities. I don't know, but long story short, football is going to get what it deserves at some point in some way, shape, or form. How that comes, do they become university employees? I don't know, Alan. But again, it doesn't sound like this was a decision that was unexpected.
Yeah.
It's been rendered, and like you said, now what, right? But all these schools are moving forward. They got to move forward, Alan. They're going to have the $2.5 million. Football is going to get the majority of it. And while in the background, all this is still getting settled. So it's kind of like, what is it? Riding your bike as you're building it, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what they're going to have to do. So, it's just a mess. It sort of makes your head pound. And you really wish there could be a little bit more stability right now. But this is something that's a big ball of yarn that's going to take a long time to I think, unravel and untangle.
All right, last question I want to get to you is Monday night, Ohio State and Notre Dame.
Right.
Lace it up. And you retweeted and quote tweeted the Marcus Freeman video from Purdue, and of course had a chance to know Marcus a little bit during his, of course, the Notre Dame head football coach and Ohio State grad, which adds a little bit more to that one. It was interesting. Ohio State did not dominate as much, maybe in the semifinal as people thought. I don't know what that means, but I still, if Ohio State laces it up and plays the way it can, to me, they still have to. I mean, they are the favorite, but it's going to be tough for Notre Dame. But how do you see this game Monday night?
Yeah, I think I'm like you, Alan. I mean, without a doubt, I think Ohio State should win this game. Back in August, this was the team that a lot of people anointed as the likely favorite to win it all, and here we are. They've reached that. They've reached that point. Now, can they finish, Alan? It looks like they're about an 8.5 point favorite. My goodness. And you're always looking for motivation, right? You look for motivation any way you can find it. And I think there's plenty for Ryan Day and Ohio State. Given the fact they didn't win the Big Ten, they got beat by Michigan, for a third year in a row. And this is a way to maybe quiet a lot of their critics out there. And I always say, to whom much is given, much is expected. And again, this is a roster they spent a lot of money on, Alan. I think it's upwards of $20 million, according to some reports. So they should be here, and they're here. And it's really hard to win when you have expectations, and they've got some at the precipice of it. I'm still not overly impressed with Notre Dame. I don't know why I'm not. I should be. If you look at, again, you can go back and look at schedules. The ACC really wasn't that good this year. If you look at who they beat in the regular season, then they played Indiana, and then they played a Georgia team that didn't have a starting quarterback. And Notre Dame was actually a favorite in that game. People seem to act like Notre Dame upset. They were the favorite. And Georgia did not have Carson Beck playing either.
Yeah.
And now they've got Ohio State. So I guess I got to give the Irish credit. They've taken care of business. I need to shut up and just salute and congratulate them. But again, it's hard to not like Marcus Freeman, to sort of circle back to what you were talking about. Just a good
Yeah,
guy,
no doubt.
and under a job with untenable pressure too. And he's got them on the precipice of their first national title since 1988, Alan, if you can believe that. Michael Stonebreaker, Tony Rice,
Yeah.
Jeff Alm, Todd Light, that whole crew. I remember going up to the game at Purdue that year in South Bend. I saw that team run over the Boilermakers that year. So it's been a long time for the Irish too, Alan. So it's kind of fun, though. I think the big storyline everybody's been talking about, there's no SEC for a second year in a row in the championship game. Ohio State and Notre Dame. This is a pure Rust Belt, snowy Big Ten, I should say national championship matchup.
Yeah, going to be interesting to watch and fun. Riley Leonard, the Notre Dame quarterback, has got some toughness. I just don't think they've got quite enough athleticism to scare Notre Dame or scare Ohio State at the end of the day. But it's hard. You're right. Hard not to pull from Marcus. Talk about pressure. Marcus has got 6 kids. That's what's amazing to me. He was always so good to us when in his time. He was probably he was the one shining star of the Darrell Hazel era from a coaching perspective. And you could see it even back in his days in West Lafayette that this opportunity could come to him. And that'll be a fun storyline to watch. But I like Ryan Day too. And I'm tired of, in a lot of ways, that Ohio State, wants to run him out of town. And gosh only knows, they lose Notre Dame, they still might want to run him out of town.
Yeah.
Who knows, $37 million later. But he has done a pretty good job. But you got to beat Michigan, I guess, if you're at Ohio State. So we'll watch that one and have a lot of fun with that on Monday night and have a lot more to discuss coming down the pike. All right, stay tuned on the site this week. Obviously, more portal talk from Purdue basketball. Purdue obviously will be taking on Oregon on Saturday. Then, of course, Ohio State coming to West Lafayette on Tuesday. Brian Newbert will have a lot of coverage in Michigan, that big game next Friday night in West Lafayette. They're all going to be big in the Big Ten. It's funny. Who the heck knows when Minnesota beats Michigan last night on the last second shot. I understand, right, as it stands today, Michigan State's the only undefeated team in the league. They struggled to beat Penn State. Of course, Penn State boat raced Purdue. Yeah. The point is, who knows what we're going to see. Purdue's, I think, in the mix, and we'll enjoy watching that. Do you have any great wisdom on the basketball side? You're watching this too. Anything that you see that was going to come down the pike from the Boilermakers?
Yeah, just this is where I guess you really got to grit your teeth. The first 7 games in the Big Ten, they didn't face the most stiff competition, Alan.
That's correct. Yeah.
Somebody chronicled the combined 1-loss record in the Big Ten have produced 6 teams it's defeated. That wasn't impressive. Here we go, right? I mean, the Boilermakers look like they're the favorite. I was reading this morning, probably to finish. I think I read 16-4. Michigan State, Illinois, maybe at 15-5. And yeah, I mean, Purdue can control its destiny, Alan, and it's going to be tough in Eugene. And coming home to be Michigan, they got 2 games in Michigan, I believe.
Right, Michigan, Rutgers, and Indiana are the Purdue's double play. So that's right.
Indiana's Indiana. I know they really got embarrassed this last week, but we all know what can happen in that game. So there's still a lot.
No doubt.
So yeah, I think they got to be the favorite. It's been a lot of fun, Al. I can't believe I was thinking about this the other day. You go from Zach Edey, and I never thought I'd see anybody. I never thought anybody would be leapfrog Glenn Robinson as Purdue's greatest player ever.
Yeah,
I gotta see Zach Edey now, and now he's Braden Smith, Alan.
Yeah.
Think about what fans have been able to enjoy just in the last 4 or 5 years. With Jaden Ivey, with Zach Edey, now with Braden Smith. It's just unbelievable. Iconic players, especially Edey and Smith, that fans have gotten a chance to enjoy here. And you know what, lastly, Alan, the fun storyline is watching Caleb First.
Yeah.
Just another example of how funny life can be. He's seen his role sort of diminish during his time, and he certainly didn't envision playing a big role this year, I'm sure. Now, Alan, he's suddenly now a key player. And it's just funny, just stay prepared, stay ready. And reminding you of a quote, they say, the harder you work, the luckier you are. And Caleb First, I know he has his faults, but he's certainly stepped up, and it's been fun watching him be a key part of this team.
That's it for our January 18th show. Appreciate our sponsor, GoldandBlack.com, Saturday Simulcast, Union Club Hotel. We appreciate the good folks there from Vicky Wicks and company, everybody there that does a great job at the Boiler Up Bar, 811 Bistro, and all that is there at the Purdue Union Club Hotel. We'll be back next week with another edition of Saturday Simulcast. And until then, have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for watching or listening or listening. And if you haven't had a chance to check out our site at GoldandBlack.com, we highly recommend you do so. We have specials running, 40% off for a gift subscription. We actually do write and produce a website and have a great community at Knucklehead Central, the biggest community on Purdue sports on the internet. So have a great rest of your weekend. Stay warm if you're in a place where it's cold, and we'll look forward to seeing you down the road.